Next up in our Monster Pod series that we're dropping as individual videos on YouTube, we've got the Breeders' Cup Turf, and we've got a man here who you've heard talk international racing on our airwaves before. You've also read his work, been a member of the Breeders' Cup notes team, and just an international expert all around. Michael Adolphson, welcome back. How are you?
Doing well. Thank you for having me. It's talking about the turf is one of my favorite things all year. So I've been watching a lot of these races all around the world, and hopefully my predictions can work out again.
One of the reasons why I had you on, in fact, relates to that. And it was to let you do a little bit of a victory lap, as it were, because you've been very high on Bay Bridge for much of the season. And your confidence in him certainly delivered at Champions Day. Is this a horse who you're still with as we head to the Breeders' Cup Turf?
I think I'm with him as an A horse. As on the top, I think there are probably three horses that I consider just the big, strong threats in the race. But I'm going to try to beat him a little bit on value, a little bit on the fact that I think that there's a horse that will beat him.
Okay, I like the sound of that. Let's go right there. Who you already confidently sound like have a selection this far out, which we love to hear.
Yeah, I like Nation's Pride to win the race. I think he draws some parallels, not physically at all. He's about half the size of him, but he's to Yabir from last year. But he's a horse that if you watch the Jockey Club Derby, he was just so impressive. His closing numbers are out of this world. They are with any horse in this race, and if not better. And he has a sort of a trajectory where like he's had these 2 months off to really progress the way Yabir did last year. And if he moves forward again, he's the kind of horse who's had the training and this summer he's had the American style learning how to race that I think will put him in a spot that he's just going to be perfect. It'll be interesting if William chooses him. I think he will in the long run. I think that he just knows Rebel's Romance. We've seen as good as he can be, but we don't know how good Nation's Pride is. And I think that he was the A horse for Godolphin in the Derby earlier this year, and I think that says a lot. And right now you're sitting at 6-1, I think, with him in the international market, which you look at half that price for Bay Bridge, and even his stablemate Rebel's Romance is 9-2, 7-2, depending on where you look. Yeah, he's sitting at a nice price. I hope he comes off of that 6 and close to 10 in the pari-mutuels, and I'll hit him hard there. But to me, he's a key horse on top, and I'm just going to play under him.
So if Nation's Pride is this year's Yabir, does that make Rebel's Romance this year's Walton Street with the German form coming into here? It is interesting. He's significantly shorter in the international markets.
Yeah.
But give me your analysis of him and what you think we can expect.
Walton Street just came for the ride last year. I think he was just at the end of his, he's a horse that just kind of earned his way in, and it wasn't like they were pointing toward the Breeders' Cup. Rebel's Romance has been pinpointed for this race for a long time, ever since the summer when he started sort of developing and proving that he can win on the grass. Not only that, but he can win in these softer Group 1s in Germany. He's stepping up markedly in class. And I'm not sure that the running of the race in America is really going to suit him. He has won around a left-handed bend. He's a tremendous horse. He's won on all-weather dirt in a Group 2 in the Group 2 UAE Derby, and he also won 2 soft Group 1s in Germany. But he's going to have to prove that he's moved forward again. And he's a big hawking horse, big black stallion. He's a gelding, but he's one that will catch your eye. But I'll take Nation's Pride 10 times over him.
What about the chances that we see a Glory Days run from Mishriff in this spot? If you cherry pick his best bits of form, I feel like he could absolutely be there with the horses we've been talking about. I think his form's a little darkened, running in a couple of spots that were maybe not where he was going to be seen to his best effect. What do you think of Mishriff for the turf?
I encourage everyone to rewatch his arc. Just put an ISO on him and just watch him. He ran a very good race. I think he's smart enough in his older age now. He's only 5, but he's just been around the world, and he's a very mature horse. That he was just in the last 100 meters, he wasn't going to run a lick. He was like, I had enough mud on me, I can't breathe, I'm done. But the move that William made on him up the inside, he split horses, came out. For a quarter mile of that 3-8 stretch there, he really gave it the Mishrif run. He just had no chance. He came from last in basically bottomless ground, mud, and he didn't like that at all. So I think that going back to firmer surface will help him. Getting 5 weeks is going to be perfect for him. And I'm hoping, and I tweeted this out earlier, I'm just hoping that I was looking at the jockey bookings. I'm like, Frankie's not booked yet. I hope Frankie gets on him because I think that's going to, well, it's going to lower his price. But I think I'll put him as my number 2 in the race over Bay Bridge because to me, if I'm separating this race, I know I called Bay Bridge an A horse earlier, but my A+ horse, I'm putting Nation's Pride on top. Hopefully hits it at a price, runs a huge race. I'm putting probably as my B slot horses. I'm putting 3 other Euros. Sorry, Warlike Goddess. I'm putting in Bay Bridge, Rebels Romance, and Mishriff. And I'm hoping that the prices work out in my favor in that regard. And then under that, you have some of the Americans that I think will run well, mostly because they know how to run around these American type courses. And I respect Warlike Goddess. I think she's the best turf horse in America. I think domestic spending might have something to say about that. But I think she is. She's earned her way into that title. She got an easy, perfect trip last time, but she kind of earned the win as well. So, she's stepping up tremendously in class, and she proved last year that when she's in a fight, she's not exactly as effective as when she puts them to bed. And if people are going to say she moved early last year, I don't think moving early is possible at Del Mar because the stretch is 5 feet long. And I think she moved when she had to win the race, and she couldn't win the race against superior fillies. So, and to me, she's running against even better horses this year. I pick her in the mix. She's in that slot, but I just don't think she's going to step up against these horses.
Who are the other Americans that you're interested in maybe messing around with to get a piece underneath? It seemed like you had some affinity for 1 or 2.
I mean, both of the motions, I think, have a big chance of getting into the 3rd and 4th slot if they get really lucky. Bye Bye Melvin and Highland Chief. I thought Bye Bye Melvin's race was really good at Saratoga. He stepped up out of inferior quality race, jumped into a grade 1, and just ran huge. And the thing is, if you look at the end of the race in the final 8th, he's not stopping. He's running through the line and he's holding off everyone. Except, the mayor obviously stuffed him like a turkey. But, it was one of those situations where you want to see this horse that has some guts to him, the same way Channel Maker did when he ran a good 3rd in this race 2 years ago on this track. So I think he's got a shot at mixing it up. Highland Chief, he just can't. He's always been a quality horse, and he's a Group 2 horse, grade 2 horse. I think he'll be in the mix. There's not really a lot. The only other price that I would maybe play with is seeing maybe if Stone Age gets lost a little bit in the mix for Aiden. I thought he ran a huge race 3 weeks ago. That should set him up properly, but he has to be ridden forwardly. And in his American races, they're just not pushing him forward. They need to quarter horse him out and let him use his stride. And they haven't done that yet here. But if he gets loose on the lead, he'll be in the top 4.
What if Broom, who ran so big unexpectedly in this race last year, would you give him any chance to
I think
something?
You look at this race. You look at the race last year, and I think everything with him depends on who rides him. Last year, he was lucky enough to pick up Irad. Irad rode a beautiful race on him, a winning race. He just got swallowed by a monster on the outside in Yabir. That race would have won a couple of these turfs. So I think that it depends on how he's ridden, how he adapts to everything. He does well with American racing, but he's still a cut below the very best. And he's not running. This is not the Sword Dancer. This is the Breeders' Cup turf. This is 5 lengths faster than the Sword Dancer, yes. And he's going to have to run that much better.
Yes. Now it all makes sense. We're going to have you back with us after you get a chance to see these horses in person. We're doing daily Breeders' Cup podcasts out there, and we'll make sure to have you and Vanessa to do a last look at the Euros, because I know your opinions are going to be a lot more formed when you have a chance to see some of these in the flesh around Keeneland. But this is, from this far out, a fantastic view at this race. We encourage folks also to sign up to our In the Money Plus service. Going to have a lot of extra European info on there, inthemoneypodcast.com/plus. Check back on the YouTube channel. Going to be plenty of content on here. We're going to, in the end, have 14 videos, one for each of the Breeders' Cup races, and then we're going to stitch them all together as the Monster Pod. Any closing thoughts from you, my friend, about the turf or anything else before we get out of here?
I will say the one thing I'm sticking with right now is that a lot of people are going to go after Appleby's obvious players because he's done so well the last few years. Remember, Appleby's 5 of his 6 wins have been in California. Only 1 was in Kentucky. You got to see whether or not these horses suit the way his Kentucky winner did. And I think that 2 of these horses, Nation's Pride and Creative Force, are going to be the most likely winners. And the other ones that everyone else likes, Silver Knot and Modern Games, are going to be overbet.
Interesting. Very interesting. Well, we'll have plenty of time to unpack and talk more about that as we get closer to the day. Michael, folks should be following you. If you're listening to the audio version, at Adolphson Racing on Twitter, tons of good info on there about international and domestic racing. Michael, we look forward to seeing you at the Breeders' Cup.
Thanks for having me as always.